Hi, I'm Kelsey from roughandtumblefarmhouse.com, and today we are going to be making feta cheese. Now, feta cheese comes from Greece and it's kind of a salty cheese. It's really good on salads or used just to top something you might be having for supper. And it doesn't take a lot of ingredients. It's a really simple cheese for beginning cheesemakers. So you can make it with cow's milk, goat's milk, or traditionally with sheep's milk. So I've done it with cow's milk before. It turns out pretty good, but it's really good if you use goat's milk because goat's milk just already naturally has a stronger flavor to it. So things we're going to need. I've got a whole pot here of the ingredients you're going to need to make your feta cheese. So first you want to make sure you have a mesophilic cheese culture. This I just got from not Cultures for Health. That's another great website. But no, I got those from the New England Cheese Making Company. Also some rennet. You can use either liquid or the tablet form. I've got tabs here. You will need some cheesecloth. You're also going to need some salt. I like to use this Morton kosher salt. You're of course going to need goat's milk. You need a gallon of milk. And you are also going to need a half-gallon jar because we're going to be making a brine for this cheese. You're going to need a nice size pot to fit your gallon of milk. And then you are also going to need a good cheese knife for slicing the curd. So let's get started. And you're also going to need a thermometer. One of these days I'll get through one of these videos without forgetting something the first time around. What we're going to do is just add our gallon of milk to our pot, and we are going to heat it to 86 degrees. Now, if you are using cow's milk, there is the option to add lipase. It's going to give you a more strong flavor, but since I'm already using goat milk and it already has lipase in it naturally, I'm not going to add any. So I'm going to be heating this to 86 degrees, and then I will be adding to it the mesophilic starter culture. So as you heat your milk, make sure you keep stirring it so that it doesn't scorch. And it's a good idea to heat it at a fairly low temperature so that way you don't have any of that milk scorching on the bottom. Even when you stir, sometimes that can happen if you just crank the heat up too high. So kind of a medium-low at most and just keep on stirring. So we've reached 86 here. And so what we're going to do now is add 1/8 of a teaspoon of the mesophilic culture. Or if you have just one of the packets, you're just going to add a whole packet to it. Just going to sprinkle that across the top. I'm going to let it sit just for a minute or so for it to rehydrate, and then I'm going to stir it into the milk. All right, then to incorporate it, you want to stir with an up and down motion to really get all that starter culture in there. So this is what's going to give your cheese the flavors that it's going to have. So do this for about 30 seconds to a minute. And now we are going to cover this, and we want it to stay roughly about that 86 degrees. So what I like to do is I just take a bath towel and wrap it around my cheese pot. So you can just kind of drape it like this. Make sure your burners aren't so hot that you're going to catch your towel on fire. And set your timer for 1 hour, and then we will come back and we are going to add the rennet. All right, so it has been an hour, and the next thing we are going to do is we are going to add some rennet to it. So here you see I have a half of a rennet tablet, and you want either a half of a rennet tablet or a half a teaspoon of liquid rennet. And if you're using the tablets like I have here, you want to just put it in 1/4 of a cup of unchlorinated water. And it's almost totally dissolved here. I'm just helping bust it up a little bit with the back of my measuring spoon. And once it's totally dissolved, we're just going to stir it into our milk. And then we are going to put the lid on, insulate it again with the towel, and then we're going to let it sit for 1 more hour. Okay, now it has been an hour, and you can see, if you look right there, you can see the whey up top and the curd underneath. So that means that our milk is coagulating like it's supposed to. So we are going to slice the curd with our knife. So you stick it in and cut all the way down to the bottom of the pot. And you go all the way across, and you want to do roughly about 1/4 inch squares is what we're trying to make. So I'm just going to do this all the way across, and then we're going to go back the other direction. Now after you've got it kind of checkerboarded, you're going to take your knife and you're going to slice at an angle, because we're trying to get these curd pieces to be small and of a pretty consistent size. So there isn't really a particularly good way to do this that I have found. So just kind of work your way around the pot as best you can, trying to make little cubes of curd. Okay. Now we're just going to let that sit for 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and start to stir it up a little bit. Okay, now as you can see, the curd and the whey have really separated out. So what we're going to do now is just stir this for about 20 minutes, and we're going to see this curd continue to shrink down in size. Okay, so now the curd has been stirred for about 20 minutes, more or less. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into a colander that is lined with a cheesecloth, and I have it here in a bowl. So I'm just going to scoop it out a little bit at a time, and I have the bowl under here to save the whey, because you can feed it to pigs and chickens, or you can use it to make another type of cheese. But I'm just going to scoop it all out of here and let it strain through, and then I'm going to hang this cheesecloth and let it hang for about 6 hours. The next step in making our feta is to make a brine solution for it to age in. So we just have salt here. Again, this is just the Morton kosher salts. And I'm going to add that to a 1/2 gallon mason jar. And then I'm going to add some filtered water to it. And I wouldn't fill it up all the way to the top, because once you fill it, you're going to have some displacement, obviously, by adding the cheese to it. So I'm just going a little bit part way up here and leaving a little bit of room. And then we're just going to stir that in, and then we are going to add our cheese. And you can slice the feta however you want to. I personally like to have it in kind of smaller squares. Some people like to do it just in big kind of slab chunks, sort of like this. And then they might just put this whole piece in there like that, maybe cut it into pieces like that. However you want to do it is perfectly fine. And then after you get it either cut into little squares or into strips like this, we are going to add it to our brine solution. So you just kind of carefully drop it in. And that's it. You have made your feta cheese. All right, so you should have a beautiful batch of feta cheese all set to go. Let it brine in your fridge for at least a couple of weeks to really develop that good, strong flavor. Always check back here at Rough and Tumble Farmhouse. Every single week we post new videos about farming, family, food, and fortitude.